here are the astronauts who will fly for the first time ever in Boeing Starliner spacecraft. Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Sunny Williams, as you can see, suiting up for their mission into the history books. Good morning, and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test, or CFT. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz.
And I'm Dee Russell with Boeing Communications. Also joining us today is NASA astronaut Mike Fink. Great to have you here.
Good morning. Third time's the charm. Beautiful day outside. The rocket's ready. The crew's getting suited up. This is an awesome day.
Yeah, beautiful start to the day so far, again, with that gorgeous sunrise we saw. And as you alluded, this is our third attempt to launch Butch and Sunny on a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket. And Starliner teams last tried launching on Saturday, but stood down just minutes before liftoff because of a power issue in a piece of ground support equipment.
NASA and Boeing want to certify Starliner for regular flights to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew program. Mike, why is it so important to have a second commercial spacecraft that can take astronauts to and from the space station from American soil?
We call it dissimilar redundancy. So the more chances, the more ways that we can send humans into space, the better it is for NASA and for our country and for the planet.
Now, Mike, I know you're great friends with both Butch and Sunny, and you got to speak with them late last night. So how are they feeling going into this third launch attempt?
I am very impressed with my colleagues for being such optimists and such professionals.
So we have people here in Florida and in Texas to help explain every part of this mission. Let's start first with ULA's Dylan Rice and Boeing's Lauren Brennicke, who are monitoring the spacecraft and rocket from the United Launch Alliance's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center, or ASOC.
Yeah, Dee, welcome to the ASOC. We are at ULA's rocket headquarters, really over here on the Cape side. Dylan and I have a great spot for today's launch operations here in the ASOC. We have special viewing and monitoring opportunities here in what I like to consider the press box that's, above the big game going on downstairs. We've got this great view of the launch control team down here, and then we have the mission directors on one side of us and engineering support on the other side. So it is really the best spot to be following along with all the procedures today. And we did just hear that we have a go to proceed with the pad team moving back over to the pad. And Dylan, that's because fueling is wrapped up.
Well, that's right, Lauren. Atlas V and Centaur are fueled and ready to go. But looking back at our experience over the weekend here during our second CFT launch attempt on Saturday, we held our terminal count at T-minus 3 minutes 50 seconds because of an issue detected by our ground launch sequencer. After the scrub, our technicians and engineers worked overnight to assess all of our ground support equipment at the launch pad. The assessment identified an issue with a single ground power supply within a redundant computer chassis that supplies power to a set of cards which control various system functions. That power supply fault caused several cards to go offline, and shortly after we entered terminal count, the ground launch sequencer attempted to verify the appropriate level of redundancy during terminal count, and when it received the feedback that those cards were offline, the ground launch sequencer terminated the countdown. On Sunday, that chassis that contained the faulty ground power unit was removed, visually inspected, and replaced with a spare chassis. We didn't find any physical indications of significant failure with it, so we'll be doing a full failure analysis on that power unit. Meanwhile, with the new equipment in place, we have performed a full functional checkout of the chassis and all the cards. All the hardware is performing nominally. So with that, we are complete with cryogenic tanking today. All tanks are in topping mode. Tanking and all of our operations today have gone very smoothly so far. All of our pre-launch checks are basically complete. As you said, the readiness poll has been completed for pad entry, and the blue team will be arriving shortly back on the pad to complete final checks before the crew arrives.
Well, good morning, Lauren and Dylan, and welcome to Hangar AE inside the broadcast booth where the commercial crew program, the management and engineers behind me are monitoring the ULA and Boeing's preparations for launch. You mentioned the weather, and of course that's a really good one today, as it has been for the previous two attempts. We are back at just 10% probability of violation, which is 90% go, and you can see why outside. It's a beautiful view outside. You see the graphic there, 90% go.
A great shot of Commander Butch Wilmore. With that, why don't we learn a little bit more about him? So NASA astronaut and retired U.S. Navy captain, raised in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, He is married to Deanna Wilmore, and they have 2 beautiful daughters. As a naval pilot, Butch racked up more than 8,000 flight hours and 663 carrier landings, all in tactical jet aircraft. He completed 4 operational deployments, supporting missions like Operation Desert Storm. And before his selection to NASA, Wilmore was on exchange to the Air Force as a flight test instructor at the Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Butch is a veteran of 2 space flights as pilot on Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009, and then in 2014 he served as flight engineer for Expedition 41 to the International Space Station. So far, Wilmore has spent 178 days in space and performed 4 spacewalks. This flight test will be his 3rd mission to the ISS.
And Sunny Williams, CFT's pilot and a retired U.S. Navy captain. NASA selected her as an astronaut in 1998, just 2 years before Butch. This will also be Sunny's 3rd mission to space, making her the first woman to test flight on an orbital spacecraft. Her first trip to the ISS launched in 2006. She served as flight engineer for Expeditions 14-15. She then returned to the orbiting lab in 2012 and was commander of Expedition 33. Sunny has more than 50 hours of spacewalk time, the 2nd most cumulative time by a female astronaut. So far, she has spent 322 days in space. Before NASA, Sunny was a former naval test pilot and instructor, logging more than 3,000 flight hours in more than 30 different aircraft. Williams grew up in Needham, Massachusetts. She's married to Michael Williams. She enjoys hanging out with their dogs, working out, hiking, camping, as well as working on cars and houses. We have teams at Mission Control in Houston monitoring Starliner's flight to the space station. Let's check in first with NASA's Brandy Dean and Boeing's Jim May.
Thanks so much, Dee, and welcome back once again to Mission Control at NASA's Johnson Space Center. I'm NASA's Brandy Dean.
And I'm Jim May with Boeing. The flight control team here in Houston, they're well rested and they're ready to get back to work, preparing to see Starliner safely through its first ascent with crew on board. The team's been training pretty hard for this. We've got hundreds of simulations and now a couple live scrub launches, so they're ready to get Starliner into space.
Yeah, I would say they're not going anywhere until Starliner does. The flight control team is again led by Flight Director Mike Lammers, who you see here in the view sitting next to Flight Director Rick Henfling. Henfling's working alongside him to keep an eye on the weather. And then further down the row on Lammers' other side, we have Canadian Space Agency astronaut Joshua Kutrick acting as today's Capcom.
And now we have an arm wrestling contest between Joe Acaba and Butch Wilmore. Oh, no, not right hand, lefty. Oh, here we go. Let's take this in. I think Butch said, "Are you trying?" Oh, I think it ended in a tie. Come on, guys. We're going to do some rock, paper, scissors. You know, I don't see any cards in this. This is a tradition. Normally, in this part of the suit up, after they've got their suits and done their checks, they do a card game. But in this case, it appears they are going with rock, paper, scissors. The whole idea here is to lose to the chief you see there, Joe Acaba. And he beat him. He beat him.
And here we go. Out of the suit-up room, Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Sunny Williams walking to an elevator at the end of the hallway to depart astronaut crew quarters. Again, armed with roses. This time, it looks like orange or yellow roses. They had red roses the other day. But again, same tradition of handing some of those off to folks who have supported them throughout this mission.
Well, if the yellow roses work this time, I think Starliner 1 will be handing out yellow roses the first time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Here they come, our CFT crew taking their first steps outside for their historic flight test to the International Space Station. Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Sunny Williams. Pausing for a second, a wave from both of them as they walk on over to family and friends. I think they're throwing out mission patches. Was that it?
Yeah, Butch definitely likes to share the joy.
And again, they had a couple more roses, which they've handed out to folks here in the crowd.
Atlas, which has a 100% mission success rate.
Go ahead. Yes, sir. Crew transport vehicle is into the pad. Roger.
Yeah, that's right,
Crew is
Lauren.
clear to proceed to level 12.
crew has arrived on level 12.
And here they go. Butch and Sunny walking across the crew access arm. Their way into the white room there
LCSYS on 1.
before they get into Starliner.
Go ahead.
Step 170, L1 balloon cycle task is complete.
Roger.
Now here in the white room, we have some other pad team members here. Obviously, they're all good friends, having a good time, and now a prayer before they get down to business.
Houston, Starliner, we're ready to power suit fan, Bravo.
Roger that. Houston is also ready for suit fan Bravo, so you'll go on the Eclipse control panel, suit fan Bravo to on.
All right, here we go.
All right. Butch powering his suit fan on. You've heard a couple of comm checks there, actually, between the pad team member you see working at the top with Butch and Butch himself, and then as well as Butch back and forth between Josh Kutrick, who will be on Starliner 1.
Now here, Sunny is. She's in her pilot seat inside Starliner. We're going to see the same sort of process that we saw with Butch, right? So they're going to get her buckled in, same 5-point harness, you know, the toe and knee restraints. And then also we'll hear the various comm checks, again, with different teams, right, that they need to be communicating with, Mike?
Absolutely. Everybody needs to be able to keep track for different reasons, but the Boeing Mission Control Center here in Florida, as well as the Mission Control Center in Houston, as well as the Launch Control Center here at the ASOC. And so everybody needs to be able to talk to each other, to the crew, in case there's something that needs us to fix or to solve before launch.
All right, guys, let's bring this up again because this does have special meaning to Sunny. Again, this is Sunny and Butch's zero gravity indicator. You can see that it is a rainbow sequence narwhal, which is a male toothed whale. And male narwhals are the ones that you see with the signature. Look at Look at Fink taking a picture of me, showing this to you like Vanna White over here. But so the male narwhals are the ones with that single straight tooth. And Sunny really wanted to pick an indicator that raised awareness for how space and ocean research go together. And space, of course, really gives us that unique vantage point of our oceans. So this particular narwhal toy was coincidentally also named Calypso, as Mike just mentioned, which happens to be the name of today's Starliner spacecraft, which Sunny named in 2019.
Going up with Butch and Sunny tonight is artwork from children all over the world. In collaboration with the Space Foundation, Boeing asked for drawings and paintings in response to the question, which historical space pioneer inspires you? They received about 3,500 entries from 66 different countries and 35 U.S. states. Every single entry will be flown as a digital file. The artists, ages 3 to 18, received a certificate showing their masterpiece would be flown to the International Space Station.
Starliner, be advised, we've been given a go to proceed with final hatch closure.
We are ready.
Oh, they are ready for sure.
They are ready, I know. We're ready too.
Several weeks.
Copy that. We're smiling out here too. See you in a couple weeks.
Flight Director Mike Lammers has been keeping a close eye on the activities in Florida as the crew got into their seats and went through their suit checks. Also, as they closed the hatch and started pressurizing Starliner. In about an hour, Lammers is going to be polling the team here in Houston for goes or no-goes, hoping to get thumbs up across the board for today's launch. He'll be speaking for his team when he gives his final go-no-go to the launch conductor about 7 minutes before launch.
And the International Space Station flight control team, led at this hour by Flight Director Allison Bollinger, has in fact polled her team, and the ISS is go for launch.
We are here on the roof of the Atlas Spaceflight Operations Center, and joining me is NASA Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy. Deputy Administrator, you have obviously firsthand experience on the effects of spaceflight on the human body. Can you discuss with us the human research experiments that Butch and Sunny will take part in during their mission?
Yeah, this human research program is critically important. There are so few people overall that have been to space that every single one counts. So when Butch and Sonny go up to the space station, they'll join our astronauts up there right now, Tracy, Mike, Matt, and Jeanette, and they will join in some of the same medical experiments so that we can have a larger pool of data. But in addition to that, we'll be watching very closely a couple of things. This is a new trajectory for a vehicle. It's going to be the first question I'm going to want to ask. How did it feel? What was the ride like? And then, of course, they've got plenty of experience getting out of the vehicle before launch, but it'll be a different thing after flying in space. And we're going to want to look at that closely.
Thank you so much for joining us. Can you discuss a little bit why it's important for the space agency that we have another American spacecraft launching to space from American soil?
Well, I mean, it is truly historic day that we have today. It is the 6th time we've launched a new vehicle to space, and this time with the first female on one of those missions in Sunny, and from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, not the Air Force Station any longer. And we're also, now it gives us that chance to get back to ISS with another crew. And the learning that we're doing there about the human body, about technology, about science, of course science is key to all we do. And then to prepare ourselves for those missions to the moon and then onto Mars.
We just heard the Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today, which means that we will launch when the orbital path for the ISS aligns with the Space Coast. Once we get into orbit, Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there. And we are going to be watching here any minute.
Minus 11 minutes.
For the crew access
arm. Control, so the crew access arm for launch. Roger.
It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go. But we could, in the event of an emergency, redeploy it in less than 15 seconds. Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
Minus 7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Has gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GC cube.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
Arm control.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Flight director.
Houston flight is go.
Starliner.
Starliner, go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room. Also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark. 159. Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed. $120. OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
Roger.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas detects something.
Rock report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
It will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight press.
30. Centaur at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sonny.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmore there, calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent. The Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
Got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
CLG and net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. The team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
LVSEP confirmed.
Good LVSEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sunny a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. 15 seconds left to go, and once again, you'll be able to see those engines firing on this digital screen here that show when the burn has started.
2 seconds. And flight controllers here in Houston, seeing 4 good OMACs, good burn.
We take a look. That was a good OI burn. You're maneuvering to NavCal 1.
Good OI burn, going to NavCal 1.
And with that call up, both crew and flight controllers agreeing that that was a good OI burn. I'm looking at the trajectory plot here in Mission Control. I see our trajectory pointing us directly up to the altitude we need to go to for the next burn.
And of course, you're seeing lots of happy faces and cheers there in Florida. Everybody glad to see Starliner safely in orbit with Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams in tow, sending it on its way to the International Space Station for docking tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time.